This is Roger Struckoff with Syscon TV. I have the great privilege sitting here at Cloud Expo and the WebRTC Summit to be sitting with Peter Dunkley, who is a technical director with Acision based in the UK. He is also our summit chair. We would have nothing about a WebRTC if it wasn't for Peter. And we've known him for about a year, and a year is a long time, I think, in any technology year, and particularly with WebRTC. This is what I think. Anyway, welcome. Let's talk a little bit about what you do with Acision on a day-to-day basis, and then let's just talk about the state of WebRTC. So thank you.
Okay, well, on a day-to-day basis in Acision, I am a technical director in a business unit that's called Rich Engagement and Enterprise. And that business unit is about producing new services and new technologies for enterprises to use, as well as for carriers and mobile operators to allow them to engage with their customers in new ways.
Mm-hmm. And then where's the WebRTC gone in the last year? Well, let's sort of a little progress update, if you can encapsulate it.
I think what we've seen over the last year is quite a bit of stabilization. Google Chrome, you can now run a demo. You can now use it in production with a far greater degree of certainty that when Chrome auto updates, it's not just going to fall over and destroy your application. But a lot of the real developments over the last year appear to have been in things like the data channel. So the data channel has been talked about for a long time, but we now actually have usable implementations in Google Chrome, Mozilla Firefox, and even some of the native libraries for things like iOS have usable data channel implementations now.
For the benighted of the world, which sort of includes me on this topic, let's talk a little bit about what was the original intention of WebRTC. What was it going to do, and what is it actually going to be able to do? Because I think its potential has expanded since the so-called early days.
So if you look back at the history of the web, going from the original static pages, then you had sort of dynamic HTML and dynamic sites, and Netscape had its way of doing it, Microsoft had its way of doing it, proprietary, and then the W3C pulled things together. Well, when you talk about real-time communications, we've had solutions for years from Adobe, things like Flash. Right. You've had Silverlight from Microsoft, but they're all proprietary solutions. And so kind of the goal of WebRTC, when you look at the charter, was to provide a way of doing this without plugins, in a way that is interoperable and standard between the browsers. But actually, I think one of the most exciting areas is going to be things like the data channel, which is going to enable a whole new type of application.
I remember a year ago people talking about the data channel as if, and so when you say a whole new type of application, when and expound a little bit on what people you think can really achieve once things mature a little more.
Well, there's a great photo sharing site out there called Pix.io, for example. This is a great resource for photographers, where a photographer can drag a selection of photographs into their browser. They can then send a link to their customers. Their customer can then connect up following that link, and then the photographer can actually go through those pictures one at a time, and it opens a voice channel so they can discuss these with them. So traditionally, where, for example, if you'd had wedding pictures or something taken, you'd have had to go in and see the photographer and have this conversation. You can now do it remotely. There's also things like peer-to-peer file sharing. Everyone's heard of things like BitTorrent. Well, with the data channel, you can write BitTorrent-like services inside the browser. Now, this isn't about piracy and copyright theft, but this is going to be useful in a variety of ways where people need to share data, and there are good reasons for doing that.
And with the photos, I mean, this is becoming invisible, so this is not just for the geeks. I mean, the idea is for normal everyday users, of which there are billions now on the web. The technology should really sort of be invisible to them. Is that correct?
Yes, and that's one of the good things about WebRTC. Everybody knows what Flash is. Everybody knows what Silverlight is, because you have to go and download the plugin, and it's a pain, and it gets out of date, and I'm actually resisting the urge to swear now talking about this. It's a nuisance, and people shouldn't have to know what these things are. So with WebRTC, people are all of a sudden, over time, going to start seeing things that previously would have had these, every time they went to the site, you have to update Flash, you have to update, whatever. They're not going to see that anymore. They're not going to know the name of the technology. It's just going to be there. It's just going to work for them, and that's a good thing.
This works. It took you a long time and a lot of discipline just to refer to it as a nuisance.
Yes.
That was very good discipline. Thank you again for helping us with our efforts here. And it sounds like you're, as always, doing a lot of interesting stuff. WebRTC is one of those things that, the measure of success will be when it fully disappears,
Yes.
and just kind of goes back down to the brilliant technical people that are making it happen. And I know you're part of that. We've been sitting with Peter Dunkley with Acision. Thanks again for joining us. Thanks for watching. For Syscon TV, this is Roger Struckoff.